Supreme Court is in session. Oyez, oyez. All those having business before this honorable court, you get the rest. It's time for unprecedented. We're looking at a new oral argument, trying to glean from the bench how they're going to rule about a Louisiana voting map that created 2 black districts. Is that 2 black districts too many for this United States right-wing Supreme Court? We're going to have to find out. More troubling was some questions raised by Justice Kavanaugh in the oral argument about the vitality and lifespan of the Voting Rights Act. Wow. You know, he took the position, and I've heard this before by the rightist of right wing. We don't need the Voting Rights Act anymore. We're colorblind as a society. Everybody can vote. Why do we need Voting Rights Act? I don't know. Because if you leave Alabama, Mississippi, and other states to their own devices, they're going to try to find a way to district out black and brown people. Maybe that's why. The argument at the oral argument was about whether this was racially motivated to draw this district, these 2 districts like a snake, literally like a salamander or a gerrymander, or was it... or were they done for political purposes to save the hide of Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and Steve Scalise? Tune in to Unprecedented. Take a clip.
Just to kind of frame this even in a larger picture, and then we can get down to the nitty gritty. You know, I think that the problem in our politics, you can blame on the redistricting that the Republicans have done around the country. And the Supreme Court has over and over again not stepped in and protect voters. This is based on race, but they have done it even when it isn't based on race to have a Republican controlled district. And the divisiveness, that's where it comes from. If you have a candidate who only has to speak to Republicans, they're going to get extreme. If you have a candidate that has to speak to Republicans and Democrats, they're going to be moderate. So for me, this is the root of the problem in our politics. But like I said, the Supreme Court hasn't been willing to step in. Hopefully they will at some point, or states get better at it, like things with ranked choice voting. But let's delve into this particular lawsuit. This particular lawsuit, as you said, has to do with Louisiana. Louisiana had a 2020 census that showed that they had an increase in the black population. 1/3 exactly of their population was black, and they only had 1 congressional district, which is an obvious mismatch. So they drew a 2nd congressional district that was majority black district. And that is when, as they put them, they call themselves the non-African American voters, otherwise known as white, sued, saying this was racially motivated district. The reason why they are saying this is racially motivated is because under the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, you cannot enact a voting restriction or procedure that's predominantly based on race. This was done to protect black voters. These white voters are using it to protect themselves. They're saying you are doing a voting procedure based on race. That's a violation of the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And so you have this interesting position where the argument from the black voters who want these districts are saying, no, this is politically motivated. Politically motivated redistricting is okay under the Voting Rights Act. It's
even if it hurts black and brown people.
Yes. And racially motivated isn't, right? So the argument is that this is the reason why needing the second map was so important is because the black voters in the area were consistently voting for the same candidate, but were outvoted by the white voting bloc because of the way that the districts were doing it. So there was a political reason for there to be a second majority black district because their voting rights were being diluted. And they could see that with how they voted compared to the whites, let's say, in the area that was voting. So here we have, so then Louisiana drew the second district, and then that's been tied up in court. This has actually been in front of the Supreme Court last spring. Last spring, they asked them to overturn the map, and the Supreme Court basically paused it. They said, we're going to allow this map to be in effect, let's say, for the 2024 election. And now they are finally hearing the full arguments on it. There was a black congressional member that was elected under this map, showing that they had politically more power, more voting power, which was what this second district was supposed to address. And you're right, to the point that Louisiana doesn't necessarily want to sit and defend it. The Louisiana lawyer was like, I don't, please resolve this issue. I don't want to have to come again to the podium in the fall. They were definitely reluctantly.
I love that quote, by the way. It went one line further. He said, and if we didn't get this map right, then we don't understand your prior rulings. We did our best, in other words. It's an odd, right? It was an odd lineup where you have Louisiana, notoriously not friendly to Black people. Let's be frank. It wasn't Louisiana burning, but it was close to that in the movies. And they're defending their map, creating just 2 Black districts because they don't want to come back again. And they think that even though it's funny, this one actually looks like a gerrymander. It looks like a salamander. It looks like a snake.
Right.
It's not compact, which is usually an argument about voting rights, districting. It's not compact, but it is political because Scalise and Mike Johnson in the Congress were protected by giving them lily white voting districts to make sure that the power of the incumbency was preserved. And they created these 2 other Black districts almost like a trade-off. If it's political, it's a political question. The Supreme Court backs out of it. What did you think from the way the oral argument went? How do you think this is going to play out?
And just real fast about the whole idea of it being a snake versus compact, because Roberts picked up on that. He's like, this looks, it's unnatural. The shape of it is unnatural. Looks like you're doing something kind of on purpose. And the Black voting group was saying, we asked for a compact district, but the state of Louisiana shaped it this way for political reasons to protect them. So this is not being shaped for race-based reasons, but political reasons. The division on the Supreme Court was pretty predictable. We had the 3 liberal justices clearly saying that this seems political and we're good with the redistricting, let's say. And we had the typical Alito, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Roberts, all being very skeptical about it. Kavanaugh in particular, the Supreme Court took up this issue under Alabama in 2022, so not that long ago, and they upheld the map that was protecting Black voters then. But in that opinion, Kavanaugh says, at some point, the protections of the Voting Rights Act have to end, right? And he brings that up again in oral arguments, which is leading people to believe not only is he maybe not going to support this second district, but he might want to push farther and undo the Voting Rights Act altogether. So it's that annoying thing Kavanaugh always does, right? With the abortion case and Dobbs, he's like, why don't you let it give it to the states? Well, you're a man and it's not your right. So obviously you don't care how the states rule. And it's same here. Like, oh, aren't we post-racial society? Like, can't we get rid of Voting Rights Act? He's the most annoying justice now almost for me on the Supreme Court because his privilege and inability to see that none of these things affect him. So he just thinks it doesn't matter and we should just wipe it away. But anyway, so it's the division is pretty predictable. I know
The Voting Rights Act is on life support anyway. It's been the bane of the MAGA Republicans' existence. They can't wait to get rid of it. Parts of it were ripped away and are basically unenforceable. Congress doesn't, because of Supreme Court precedent led by Roberts. The Congress doesn't do a darn thing about it to fix it and improve it. There's a reason it was implemented, I don't think I don't think that wound is healed with time. Even though Kavanaugh, of course, makes the suggestion that it has, but they want to kill it. Look, I don't know if you saw, we'll talk about it probably our next unprecedented. Did you see during oral argument about the 6th Amendment right of confrontation and all under criminal rights, that Alito suddenly, there's new historical research that maybe challenges our very notion of the Sixth Amendment. There's new historical research. That's a lie. Crazy. That's an excuse to take away a criminal defendant's rights with some newfangled, who knows what AI research.
Yeah, that was definitely an unusual segue. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. The fact that they are just trying to take away more rights is.
We're going to change the name of this show. We're going to change the name of this show to Unusual Segue.
Yeah, exactly.
I came up with a new phrase there. Take a clip. I'm going to coin that. Every week, Dina, Sayegh, Dal, and I get together and we talk about things related to the United States Supreme Court, including cases on their way there, cases already there, cases that they've heard oral argument on but haven't ruled on, the rulings as they come out. And we do it one place, really, on the YouTube dial. Legal AF here and Unprecedented. So if you like the kind of work we're doing, hit the subscribe button. Help us continue to grow this pro-democracy channel that we do in collaboration with the Midas Touch channel and network. So until my next reporting, and that of Dina Dahl, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.